You're listening to Where You Live with Gene and Tony.
Welcome back to Where You Live with Gene and Tony. It's great to have you with us. We're broadcasting from the Natural Green Lawn and Landscape Studios. We're brought to you this hour by Extreme Exteriors and American Family Insurance, the Kim Bennett Agency. Before we get back to this fantastic story of
the Grinch who ruled the Homeowners Association.
Yes, in Virginia, I'd like to let our listeners know we've got some gifts at this time that we want to give you. One is a free subscription to our bi-monthly newsletter, What's New. A lot of what we talk about on the show, we cover in further detail. People that are on the show as our guest experts write for this newsletter too. It's yours free. Just give us a call anytime during the week at our office at 952-922-2500. Ask for Lori. She'll make sure that you start receiving it either electronically or by mail. And before we get back into our story too, I just want to share during this holiday season, we certainly appreciate everybody in the spirit that a lot of people in Minnesota have in giving and giving to charities. I think the state of Minnesota and the people in Minnesota, I think, lead the nation in one of the I think, if not the top state, in the top 5 for sure in terms of giving.
Charitable giving.
And we appreciate that. If you haven't thought about giving and you are wondering about a good charity, may we suggest one that we have certainly gotten behind and given our heart to over the last decade or better, and that's the Ronald McDonald House. Between now and January 1st, we're asking any of our listeners that if you would make a donation to the Ronald McDonald House, New Concepts is going to match the first $2,500. It's a great charity. We're talking about kids who have just an illness. We're talking cancer. We're talking kids that just go through a horrific time, and their family is able to stay together with them.
It supports the whole family, which I think is
they get
so
to stay
remarkable.
all together during that whole time, and they do a great work, and they've got Ronald McDonald houses all throughout the United States. We want to support the one that's here at the University of Minnesota. So if you would make the check out to the Ronald McDonald House, send it to our office at New Concepts. We will match the first $2,500 given. You can call Lori Madsen, our office manager, at 952-922-2500, and thank you very much.
So back to this story out of Virginia.
Yeah.
We have an association board of directors who has so rigidly and vehemently applied their rules, their fines, their fees, that it's become a class action. Well, it's become a lawsuit in Virginia that's gone to the Supreme Court and is actually changing condo association law there that's going to have an impact on the entire country eventually.
Anytime a law goes all the way to the Supreme Court, yes, that's where, I mean, the whole purpose for the smaller courts is there's a disagreement, and then the higher court may overturn what a lower court judge may have determined. But the Supreme Court is the highest in the land. And so the state Supreme Court said, you know what? We agree, and you and I do too.
That this was egregious. The way that this was applied, that the association rules were applied, is really not appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, of course, to have a car that needs to be in proper working order, needs to be licensed properly and all, but to wait until a couple minutes after midnight when the license tabs expire and then to have it towed. Come on now. I mean, in Minnesota, for example, you have 10 days after the month that it expires
month ends, that's right,
to be able to get the new tabs because they could be in the mail.
That's right. There was that. It seemed like they fined for everything, every little thing that happened. Another example was there was an insurance, or there was a disaster where a pipe burst a pipe in a common area attic burst and destroyed someone's condominium unit, and the board refused to submit a claim to the association insurance, telling the unit owner, no, it's your responsibility, your unit insurance.
Yeah, the board president said this. He said, it's your responsibility because it's not our fault.
Now what okay. Now what was wrong with the way he handled that request for an insurance claim?
Yeah, of course, we talk about it all the time on the show. Insurance is not paid out based on fault. It's based on responsibility.
That's
right. And I bet you somewhere this homeowner association has a policy that everybody has been paying a part of their monthly assessment to a master policy for this.
That's right.
For this building.
That's right.
And that's the first place it should go. And so we have people who are vindictive. We have people who don't know how to run the association. They are going about things the wrong way, giving bad advice, getting people upset.
The president accepted a $75,000 fee for consulting.
Yes. And so, of course, the state Supreme Court says, hey, you know what? We're going to change things, and so
we want to put a halt to this. This can't go on.
So what do you think about what the judge said about this idea that, you know what? I think the only way to get around this, he said, is everything needs to be written in the governing documents. If there's a rule that you're going to enforce, it's got to be in the governing documents. It's got to be in the declaration, in the covenants. Of course.
So practically speaking, what does that mean?
That means that you're going to need a supermajority of all the homeowners in the association, and that's
to agree to that new rule.
So that's either 2/3 or 3/4 or better
in the state of Minnesota.
And so I think the judge was thinking, you know what?
Well, not only that, you have to file an amendment, and you have to have legal help in doing all this. So to amend your governing documents is a pricey proposition. So the judge, in his effort to halt this crazy stuff that's going on, comes up with this idea that, okay, here's where we draw the line. No new rules and regulations unless you amend your documents. Now, what's the problem with that?
I commend him partially because he's saying, you know what, here's an issue where a few people have been making life a living hell for a number of other people and have been enforcing things incorrectly. So let's make the majority in charge of what's going on. And I like that idea.
Okay.
However, I don't think that the right thing to do was to say, because you've got one bad apple here,
in this association,
all other associations now in Virginia are going to have to do likewise.
Yeah.
Because for the most part, most people are very reasonable people. Let me ask you this, because I think this is a very analogous to this, and that is, we know that in real estate there are people who will manage property and will embezzle, and you hear about that in the news. Someone embezzles.
It happens. Yep, it can happen.
That happens every once in a while, but you don't see the state Supreme Court coming by saying, therefore, nobody who has a real estate license will be able to handle any money for any client ever again.
Right.
You wouldn't do that for the one bad apple. What do? They say to that one bad apple, you can't do real estate anymore.
There you go.
You're going to jail.
There you go. Good point. Because if they did make a blanket ruling like that, they would virtually make it impossible for real estate brokers to do business.
Why couldn't the judge do something like that? And make instead his ruling, you know what? You, Mr. Board President,
right?
You're a bad apple. We're going to put something on that says you can't ever serve on the board of any association again.
Yeah. That's I think a good solution. Or all the board members. We don't know that all the board members weren't behind this guy.
Yes.
We know the president's the spokesperson, and the president is the one definitely
leader of the pack.
Yeah,
for
was
sure.
The leader. That's true. True.
But others were certainly behind it.
We make this argument in rental management all the time because one bad landlord causes so much trouble for everyone, because the cities and the state love to pass new legislation based on the acts of one or two or a few landlords that affect all of us and ultimately raise the cost of rent.
Yeah.
Because it raises the cost of doing business so much.
Yeah. And to me, the real issue here is individuals. I don't think we. So what I think we've done here is we've seen a classic example of what happens with the unintended consequences with someone trying to fix something, which is what we take issue with each and every week on the show.
That's right.
And so, again, I applaud the judge for trying to do this. He had, I think, a right idea in trying to get a majority of the people, but I think he is going to be making it a lot worse for a lot of good folks in a lot of good HOAs in the state of Virginia. Well, hey, we got to take a break. Don't go away, folks. We've got one more segment before we close out our show today, so don't go away.